There is something quietly revealing about the way a person looks at a dog. Not just the affection, not just the smile, but the way their body softens, the way their voice lowers, the way their attention becomes present instead of scattered. For many people who love dogs, that moment is not about the animal alone. It's about safety, about connection without performance, about being seen without needing to explain who you are. Dog lovers are often misunderstood as simply animal people, but psychologically, the bond between humans and dogs runs far deeper than preference or habit. It taps into ancient systems in the human brain, systems built for attachment, caregiving, trust, and emotional regulation. Loving a dog is not just a hobby. For many, it is an emotional language. From a psychological perspective, humans evolved alongside dogs for thousands of years. Long before modern society, dogs offered protection, companionship, and cooperation. In return, humans offered food, shelter, and care. This mutual reliance shaped both species. Over time, dogs became remarkably attuned to human emotions, able to read facial expressions, tone of voice, and even subtle changes in body language. When a person bonds with a dog today, they are tapping into this deeply embedded interspecies relationship, one that feels instinctive rather than learned. People who love dogs often respond strongly to this emotional attunement. They notice how dogs react to their moods, how a dog stays close during moments of stress, how joy is expressed freely and without restraint. Psychologically, this kind of interaction activates the release of oxytocin, the hormone associated with bonding, trust, and emotional safety. The same hormone is released when a parent holds a child, or when people feel deeply connected to someone they trust. This is one reason dogs can feel emotionally regulated. For people who experience anxiety, loneliness, or emotional overload, dogs provide a steady, non-judgmental presence. They don't ask for explanations. They don't reinterpret your words. They respond to who you are at the moment. And for many dog lovers, that simplicity feels like relief. Attachment theory helps explain this further. Humans form emotional bonds based on early experiences of care, safety, and responsiveness. When those experiences are inconsistent or emotionally complex, people often seek alternative forms of secure attachment later in life. Dogs by nature offer predictable affection and responsiveness. They don't withdraw emotionally to punish. They don't manipulate connections. They are consistent. For someone who values emotional safety, this consistency can feel deeply comforting. This does not mean dog lovers are avoiding human relationships. Instead, it often means they deeply value emotional authenticity. Dogs do not perform social roles. They don't pretend. Their affection is direct. Their emotions are visible. Psychologically, people who are drawn to dogs often appreciate this transparency. They feel more at ease in relationships where emotions are expressed honestly, without hidden agendas. Empathy plays a major role here. Studies consistently show that people who form strong bonds with animals tend to score higher in empathy and emotional sensitivity. Loving a dog requires attunement to nonverbal cues, recognizing when a dog is anxious, excited, tired, or in need of reassurance. Over time, this strengthens emotional awareness, not just toward animals, but toward people as well. This may be why many dog lovers are highly perceptive of emotional shifts in others. They notice tone changes, they sense tension, they respond intuitively rather than analytically. While this sensitivity can be a strength, it can also make people more vulnerable to emotional overwhelm, especially in environments that feel chaotic or emotionally unsafe. Dogs, in contrast, offer grounding. There is also a strong caregiving component in the psychology of dog lovers. Caring for a dog involves routine, responsibility, and presence. Feeding, walking, training, and comforting create a sense of purpose that is deeply regulating. Psychologically, this activates the brain's caregiving systems, which are associated with meaning and emotional stability. For some people, caring for a dog provides structure when life feels unpredictable. Interestingly, people who love dogs often report feeling calmer during mundane routines, walking the same route, following daily schedules, engaging in repetitive tasks. These routines are not boring to them, they are stabilizing. Dogs live in the present. They don't ruminate about the past or worry about the future. Spending time with a dog gently pulls a person out of mental overthinking and back into the moment. This present-focused quality is especially appealing to people who struggle with stress or emotional overload. When the mind is constantly anticipating, analyzing, or replaying experiences, the presence of a dog can act as a psychological anchor. A walk becomes just a walk. A moment becomes just a moment. And in that simplicity, the nervous system can finally rest. Another psychological layer involves trust. Dogs rely on humans for survival, and in return, they offer loyalty that feels unconditional. For people who have experienced betrayal, inconsistency, or emotional unpredictability in relationships, this loyalty can feel profoundly healing. Not because dogs replace human connection, but because they restore faith in attachment itself. This is why the loss of a dog can be deeply painful. For many dog lovers, grief is not exaggerated, it is appropriate. The bond was real, the attachment was genuine. Psychologically, losing a dog can feel like losing a constant source of emotional regulation, safety, and companionship. This grief deserves recognition, not dismissal. Dog lovers are also often people who value nonverbal connection. While humans rely heavily on language, dogs communicate through presence, behavior, and energy. People who resonate with this form of communication may feel drained by excessive verbal processing, but deeply nourished by quiet companionship, sitting together, walking together, existing together. This preference doesn't indicate emotional avoidance. Instead, it suggests an appreciation for connection that doesn't require constant explanation. In a world that demands productivity, performance, and articulation, dogs offer acceptance without conditions. For many people, that feels like emotional honesty. Social psychology also plays a role. Dogs often act as social bridges. Walking a dog increases the likelihood of interaction, conversation, and shared moments with others. For people who are naturally introverted or socially selective, dogs provide a gentle way to connect without pressure. The focus shifts away from self-presentation and toward shared interest. Interestingly, people who love dogs often value mutual respect more than dominance, even though outdated stereotypes sometimes suggest otherwise. Modern human-dog relationships are increasingly based on understanding behavior, building trust, and communicating clearly. This reflects a psychological preference for cooperation rather than control. At a deeper level, loving dogs can reflect how a person relates to vulnerability. Dogs are openly vulnerable. They express fear, excitement, and affection without filters. People who are comfortable with this openness often value emotional honesty in themselves and others. They are not necessarily loud or expressive, but they are genuine. This authenticity is part of what makes dog lovers feel safe to be around. They tend to accept emotional complexity without rushing to fix it. They understand that presence alone can be supportive. This is something dogs teach naturally. Sometimes the most healing thing is simply staying close. It's also important to note that loving dogs does not mean idealizing them. Healthy dog lovers recognize boundaries, training needs, and responsibility. Psychologically, this balance reflects emotional maturity, the ability to care deeply without losing structure. It's not indulgence, it's a relationship. In contrast to relationships driven by image or status, the bond with a dog is private and personal. There is no audience, no performance, just consistency over time. And for many people, that kind of relationship feels grounding in a world that often feels superficial or fast-paced. Ultimately, the psychology of people who love dogs reveals something gentle but powerful. These individuals often value emotional safety, presence, empathy, and authenticity. They understand connection as something felt, not displayed. They find meaning in care, comfort in routine, and peace in companionship. Loving a dog is not about escaping humanity. It is about reconnecting with a part of ourselves that remembers how to relate without masks, without manipulation, without conditions. And perhaps that is why, when a dog looks at someone with trust, something inside that person softens. Not because the dog needs them, but because the bond reminds them who they are when they feel safe enough to simply exist. If this resonates with you, it doesn't mean you are defined by loving dogs. It means you understand connection in a quiet, embodied way. It means you value presence over performance, loyalty over intensity, and care over control. And in a world that often forgets how to slow down, that psychology is not just comforting, it's deeply human.